So we're continuing with Mishnah 13. Let's put it back on the screen for everyone so we could see it, especially if you weren't here yesterday. So this was from Hillel, continuing in giving his thoughts in terms of the halachos about life. So he said, Naged Shema, Aved Shemei. We said this was talked about yesterday. Someone who seeks to their names, they're trying to make themselves famous, want to be a big shot, then you lose your name. Udala mosif yasef. If you do not increase, you decrease. So we're going to concentrate on that today. Increasing here is referring really to increasing your knowledge, increasing your Torah study. So a person who does not increase their learning, Rashi, the Rav actually tells us, the Rav Batanura, that you end up forgetting what you learned. If you don't look to continually increase, even that which you know, you end up forgetting. Rashi actually refers to an idea also that the different times of year, he gets this idea that from the 15th of Av, we know that the way that, now we're in the middle of the winter, we have long nights, right? So at a certain point in the year, the nights get shorter or longer. So it's from the middle of the month of Av, then that's when the nights start. That's the end of the summer already, or the middle of the summer. That's when the nights start getting shorter, get longer. The days get shorter, right? So nighttime is a time for Torah study. So if a person doesn't increase the learning during the days when there's increased nighttime, it's a negative. Excuse me. So the Mishnah here is highlighting the importance of Torah study, and also in the next line about teaching to others. A person who does not a person who is not willing to teach others, it's also a problem. A person cannot remain static in their level of knowledge. And if you are not going to continue to pursue greater knowledge and also review what you already know, so then your knowledge base will decrease. The Gemara talks about an idea that if you desert the Torah, if you go one day without Torah, so then the Torah kind of goes a day away as well, and you end up losing 2 days worth, meaning your distance. So you picture two people standing in the same spot. You're right next to each other, and you go in opposite directions, right? If you go in opposite directions and you each travel for one day, so now you're 2 days apart. You are 2 days away from that other person. So that's the idea. When you are going to be leaving the Torah, then it's going to leave you as well. And Irving Bunim points out that a human being, right? We start off as a baby, we start as a child, and then you grow. Well, you can't remain static. You can't say, "Oh, well, I know what I learned when I learned in elementary school or when I was 5 years old. That's my knowledge." If that's your knowledge base is a child's knowledge base, and so a person's knowledge has to keep step with their development. And as they grow older, they have to increase their ability to not only of the totality of information, but certainly of the depth, right? When we talk about learning Torah, so yeah, we learned it in grade school. We may have learned Bereshit when we were in grade 1, but what we're learning then is nothing compared to what we're able to learn now as adults and understand it in terms of the depth. And therefore, if a person is not going to be continuously growing, then you're stagnant. You haven't kept pace, and you actually end up, it's like regressing. He also points out that there are two factors that tend to weaken your understanding. One is if you don't reinforce your appreciation for it. So then what happens is that other factors come in and say, "Yeah, this is not important." And when something's not important, you kind of forget about it, right? You don't really keep the information as well for something that you don't feel is important as with something you do. With things that are important to you, you're going to be more likely to remember. And secondly, you forget. It's natural. It's natural for us to forget things. And therefore, if we are not constantly reinforcing and reminding ourselves, then automatically we're going to forget. Also, he talks about another idea about our when you don't use something, right? We know if you don't use your muscles, so then they atrophy, right? Someone who unfortunately is bedridden, they almost like they have to learn to walk again. Well, it's the same thing with our mind. If we don't use our minds, then our mind muscles also end up atrophying, and we need to exercise our minds. And therefore, in terms of our learning, we have to continuously exercise the learning abilities in order to make sure that we are understanding and we're increasing and using it and being able to develop our ability to think and understand. Because if we don't, then we lose it. The Tiferes Yisrael points out that also someone who doesn't want to learn more. So, what reasons would someone not want to learn more? So, one reason being because he's the one. This is we talked about yesterday who put this Mishnah in the realm of arrogance. That people who are, if you're arrogant, it's going to lead to certain negative consequences and negative attributes. And one of them is when a person is arrogant, they don't feel they need to know anything more than they already know. I'm already top of the world. So one reason you say, well, I know enough. I know everything. I don't need to know anymore. Or you think, who am I going to learn from? I'm going to learn from that person. That person, I'm better than that person. I don't want to learn from someone who's not as great as me. That's another problem we have when we're arrogant. Um, Sometimes another aspect of arrogance is not so much that I think I'm better than someone else. I may realize that I'm not, but I don't want them to know it. And therefore, if I end up learning with that person, if that person is my teacher and then we engage, they're going to realize how much I'm lacking, and I don't want them to know that. So these are different reasons why a person might not want to learn from more or from someone else. And the consequence in the Mishnah seems to be that you're passing away. Your life is no longer there. You're going to die, or he says you're going to die earlier than your time. That he said the reason is because the purpose of life. What if you're not growing, if you're not going ahead, if you're not continuously gaining more, then what are you doing? What's the purpose of life? Just to stay still? The purpose of life is to grow, to become better. And if you decided I'm as good as I need to be, I'm as good as I'm ever going to be, I don't need to get any better, well, you've completed your life. You've done everything you need to do. Right? What more is there to do if you think you've already accomplished everything? So in that case, it's time to move on to the next world because you don't need to do anymore. Right? So we always need to have the attitude is, no, I have not yet accomplished. I still have so much more to accomplish. There's so much more that I need to do, but so much more I need to learn. Right? There's always, and we also say, the more you know, the more you know you don't know. Right? Right. The people who think they know everything, it's because they don't know enough. But the more we know, the more we realize that we don't know, and then we want to get more. We want to be able to learn more. And finally, one more point on this from Rabbi Tversky is he points out that, if we look at the world, we have the animals. So animals are physical. And then we have angels, which are spiritual. And then we have people, and we're both, right? We're a combination of the physical and the spiritual, our body and our neshama and our soul. And when you look at what animals, they grow. An animal grows in size and it grows in strength. Animal does not necessarily grow in intelligence. An angel doesn't grow. An angel just is. They are what they are. People, we are growing both physically, and spiritually, but our physically we stop well physically we certainly stop growing in terms of growing higher. Some of us unfortunately may be growing a little bit bigger, but in terms of growing taller, right, there's a limit to that, and then we stop growing. But spiritually we can grow for our entire lives. And that is something that continues. And if we stop growing spiritually, so then we're not exercising the uniqueness of who we are as human beings. Our identity as a full human being is no longer being exercised, is not there anymore. And so, and at whatever level we're on, it doesn't, we can always grow more, right? No matter how great we are, there's always more that we can accomplish. And therefore, if we have that attitude, then we will continue. And that's what living is. Living means that we're going to be striving for greater heights in terms of our intelligence, in terms of our being able to give back to the world, and in terms of our spirituality. And ultimately, that's what it is. And therefore, when we stop that, then it's like our life doesn't no longer has meaning, and therefore it becomes not worth living. So ultimately, we want to continue to grow both in terms of our spiritual, in terms of our knowledge, and to be able to learn as much as we can, and to be able to therefore impart it to others as well. We'll hold it there for today.